Hello, this is Jordan Thomas from Unmasked Athletes, and who I'm talking to today?
Ellyse Wolfrath.
I'm really excited about this. This is the first woman on the podcast. We got a lot of male perspective from different sports. Kind of tell me a little bit about your background, who you are, where you're from.
So I'm Ellyse Wolfrath. I originally went to high school at Fox Valley Lutheran. I did a lot of different sports through there. I did basketball, volleyball, but track was my main event, which I stuck through in college when I went to Northern Michigan. So,
yeah, I like that. Tell me, on a woman's side of sports, kind of tell me how you grew up playing your sports and how you felt about that with your childhood, how that related to, your sport as well.
I would say definitely from when I started out in sports as to now, I think there's definitely a different light shown on women's sports. I feel like it's kind of coming to the forefront of things. So, I guess just growing up as a woman in sports really had to work extra for that, and yeah.
Okay. Explain to me about how your childhood was, without the sports on the side. Tell me a little bit about that.
I grew up in a very small town, so a lot of outdoors, a lot of fishing, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just really connected with the outdoors, travel, things like that. I think a lot of what I did was actually sports, so.
Okay. Kind of tell me, what made you fall in love with the sport itself?
With specifically track?
Yeah, track, volleyball, basketball, anything. Yeah.
All of them. I would say just, honestly, the love of the sport. I think just the way you feel when you succeed and just giving you goals, something to work for. I think it's a great way to kind of, get energy out, express yourself, be a part of a team. I think that's a really huge thing.
Yeah. So then, throughout high school and the journey, when did you know, okay, I kind of want to do this in college? What stage and point that was in your life?
I would say early on, I kind of realized that there was something in track. I did hurdles, specifically, 100 hurdles. I did some open sprints, but hurdles was kind of, my main event. And I feel like I didn't decide to run in college originally until, my senior year of high school. I was kind of where can this take me? I guess kind of what next type of decision. But yeah, I broke the Wisconsin state record in high school. So that was kind of my moment where I was kind of maybe this could be something real, Yeah.
What made you choose the college that you was at, and kind of tell me how that played out for you?
I would say the big deciding factor to me, I would say sports is a big thing, but at the end of the day, when sports leaves you, you kind of got to look back and say, where is this really taking me? They had a really good nursing program, and the area was in, it was far enough away, but close enough to home where I could always come back. But I would say the big part would be, when you leave all of your sports behind, at the end of the day, it's going to be what's taking you on after that, and that was my nursing career. So that was a big deciding factor.
Kind of I'm going to take a little deep dive. It's going to turn a little bit of a turn, which is okay. Kind of explain about your mental health from transition from high school up to college. How was that?
I would say it's a huge difference. Absolutely huge. I went to private school my entire life up until college, where I went to a public school. So I would say growing up in a way, your family's around you, they bring you to church, they make those decisions for you almost. But I think really, being away from family, I didn't know anyone going to the college I went to. So, I had, no connections to their new city, new state even. So, I feel going there, it was my time that I, really, chose religion, I guess, in a way, I kind of found what was in it. For me, I really connected to it. So.
Yeah. So then, kind of going back, with that, how did you, what made you happy? What was your outlet when you didn't have that sport? Outside of sports, I did a lot of volunteering. We had, clubs like AIA. It's called Athletes in Action. It's an athletic-based athletic group. We'd get together every week, dive into God's Word. It was an amazing community to be a part of. We had God's Word in it, but we also did, fun activities. So it was just a great way to just get out of the headspace of the pressure of track, pressure of nursing, because, between both of those, life was extremely busy, but, I think just having that community of athletes that were also busy, but also had that base of God, just kind of just was really encouraging and really motivated me outside of sports.
Okay. Kind of like, I like that, how you brought it up. I was going to be my next question, which is good. Like, tell me about your faith, how you grew up with it until now. Like, what was a journey, what was a struggle, and what was a positive out of it as well?
Yeah, like I said before, growing up, you know, you kind of have like your parents almost choosing it for you. So I think that hitting college was really my time to like choose it for myself and just like really be fulfilled by it. I think, you know, when you hit struggles, you know, like you could lose sports through injury, like work-wise, like, you know, getting through the nursing program could be really a big struggle. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, like if all of that is gone, you'll always have God, which I think is a huge thing.
Yes.
You know, like you could lose everything, but, you know, if you still have, you know, your religion, that base, like you have that kind of light at the end of the tunnel almost.
Like, I like to hear that, especially with like athletes, like especially that have been on the podcast, talk about their journey with God. Like, if everything was gone, you still always can rely on God. And I always tell people, like, the only person you should always truly rely on is God. Because no matter what, he's always listening to you. If you need an outlet, he's listening to you. Or, like, he's always watching over you through the trials and tribulations, no matter what happened in life. And for you to say that makes me happy, because it's like, it's not, some people, like, also that come on the podcast, obviously I don't tell who, but, like, some people aren't religious, and for them to be able to kind of put their foot in the door to become religious is like, that's very vital, especially as athletes, because we get so lost in our sport where we start to idolize it so much and we put our sport above God. And for you to say that kind of makes me happy, especially the programs and stuff like that. Kind of give me a detail, like with your journey with your sport and with God, like what was your biggest purpose? What was your why in life?
I would say my biggest why in life, religion-based. I think just, you know, getting into the religion. Like, I think when I chose it for myself, like, I really saw the benefit I had from it. I did a lot of volunteering through that then. We actually helped kind of kickstart a church up in Marquette, Michigan called Anchor. So I kind of helped. I was like the original, I guess an original member. We'd even sit down, like me and like 8 other people and the pastor, and we'd just like dive into God's word. He'd take our input. Like, I just think like being able to see like the impact you're having on other people, or even just like the community, because I think in Marquette, like that community gave so much to me as an athlete, like through my church, like just the support, everything like that. Just having the opportunity to give back in that way was just extremely fulfilling.
Could you tell me a little, I want to know more about that. Like, kind of tell me like how it is. I don't know what it's like. I'm a male, so it's like I want to know, especially for the women out there. Like, I want to know for like my nieces and my nephews, my sisters. Like, I watched my sister. She played boys sports growing up because she wanted to run with him, but also kind of see like how the boys also was like no, and she became a really good wrestler. And then my mom obviously didn't want her to play football and get hurt. But kind of tell me like, how did you dominate in your sport, but also that discriminatory against women? Like, I want to kind of get an input to kind of shed out to the world about that.
Yeah, I think as a woman in sports, it's definitely a little bit different. Like I said before, like the light that's coming onto women's sports now, I think you can never go back on that. Like, you know, women are coming to the forefront of it, and it's really cool to see that change, and I think it's going to keep going and going. As a woman in sports, I would say I had a little brother, or I have a little brother.
Yeah.
So I would play a lot of sports with him, you know, because I feel like having just like that motivation to like, you know, want to work with people at that same level, or just get like pushed just as hard, you know.
Yeah.
Like, as a woman, like, I still want to lift heavy. Like, I want that big power. I need that big push, especially as, like, a short sprints hurdling athlete. Like, you kind of need that, like just that extra power, and having just, like, the same expectations, I think is a big thing, is, like, I want to be expected to, like, have that commitment, dedication, you know, build that power just as much as anyone else.
Yeah, I appreciate that, too. 'Cause that kind of gave me a little bit more insight as well, because kind of, like, hearing you talk kind of reminded me about my sister. Like, she kind of, I try not to cuss on the podcast, but it's like how she's like, forget about what everybody else say. Like, I'm going to do me. And like, especially how you said you're a smaller athlete in your position in sports. So kind of what would you spread light to like the little girls or the older women in their sport that want to be better? Like, what's inspiration you can be able to tell them?
I would say, you know, never give up and don't stop. Like, I think as a woman in sports, like, that's just an exciting place to be. Like, having the opportunity to be in sport in the first place, I think is just a huge blessing. So just like taking every moment and working absolutely as hard as you can, you know.
Okay, I like that. How do you want to build your future? Like without the sport, obviously you're done. It's like, how do you want to be able to build your future? And like, what are your plans for in life?
So as of right now, I'm actually transitioning a bit to the sport of skeleton. So I don't think we're not quite done yet. So I'm kind of transitioning into that. We go out to Utah and learning to slide, everything like that. So
Oh, you're not done at all.
so kind of, yeah, kind of keep going actually.
Okay, so that's what you want to be able to do. If you didn't have obviously your sport, what would you like? Who would you be? That's probably the best answer I can probably give.
Yeah, I would say of anything. I would say I'm a sibling. Like, there's a lot of, like, you know, I'm a child of God. Like, I'm now a godmother. So, like, I'm a nurse. Like, there's so many different things that I am. You know, athlete kind of, you know, shaped me into who I am. I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's so many other things that I have contributing into who I am. Just so many different roles, things like that. I don't think, you know, leaving athletics would be, you know, kind of like the end of who I am, just because there's so many other things I want to do with my life.
Yeah. So like, kind of transition, like, if somebody didn't know you, obviously they don't probably know you. Kind of describe like who you are as a person and what you want to be able to provide to the world.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what I want to provide to the world is just like, you know, my light. I think that's the biggest thing that I can, is just my influence of kind of my priorities of like being a child of God, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I still try and stay connected to that church in Michigan, you know, just kind of want to keep spreading my light, you know, live as more of like an influence, or like as a just like example of like who I am as like within my religion too.
Okay. I didn't last that long in track, by the way, like especially in hurdles. I was more of a sprinter and a relay racer, but that was long lived for a while. But kind of like, what was your like mistakes that you wish you would have never made in your sport, as whether it's developing or struggles with your faith, or how to balance like school, a student, and being an athlete?
All of it.
Oh, okay. I want to hear it. Just
All
talk
of
about
it.
it. Yeah.
This is a lot. Going into a college, like, you know, being a college athlete is a whole different world. It's kind of like, it was my job, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, they're paying for me to go to school to get that education, you know, to travel, to be a part of that sport. I think getting to college, it's kind of almost who you surround yourself with, you know. Like, I think who you surround yourself with is like 50% of your success. You know, because those people have huge influences on you. And I think it took me my first year to be like, okay, like, these are the people, like, I think being around, like, you know, they support me, they have the same values. Like, I think AIA, like, I started going there my second year, and I think it kind of just reset kind of my perspective on everything. So I think in that sense, like, surrounding myself with the right people. Our second semester, and I would say a big struggle that I had that kind of also helped me, like, kind of be like, all right, like, we need to, like, really figure things out, is we had a teammate my second semester of college that committed suicide on our team, which was, I would say, very devastating to the team. But I've never seen like a group of people become so close and supportive and just kind of, you know, like, dive into God's word together. I think that was a huge thing that kind of, you know, was a big turning point in my life. And I think that kind of just, you know, kind of set the scene.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about that, by the way, too. Like, I know right now there's a lot of athletes that are committing suicide and other things, which it upsets me a little bit, because it's kind of hard for us athletes to find a true outlet. And it also is kind of hard to find people that also been in our shoes, they can relate. Because it's different. We can go talk to a rocket science, but do they know how to jump over hurdles? I play football. Can you know how to run the football? And it's like, if I kind of talk to you, it's kind of like white noise, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of getting somebody that can relate to how you feel, but also been in that journey. That's a different perspective. How you said that kind of changed your mind. Like, give me insight. Why did it change you and that perspective?
I would say she was a great athlete. Like, you know, just her light that she shone on our team was just amazing. So I think after that all happened, I think I just kind of wanted to live almost like, not for her, but kind of like keep going what she started. Like, she was big into like promoting like mental health, all that stuff, always checking up on us. So I think just kind of looking back on that, like something that she would have wanted is kind of like, make sure like we're checking up on people and like really kind of supporting that mental health aspect of things. Yeah.
And did you ever feel like pressure? You use that word pressure, and that's a word that obviously as we carry on throughout this, like kind of describe what is pressure to you?
I would say expectations. But also I don't think pressure is necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think having expectations is a good thing, but it also depends what type of expectations or if there's bias in those expectations. I think all in all, pressure is a good thing.
Yeah. I agree.
It pushes you, I think it pushes your limits. It pushes like who you are as a person.
Yeah, and I feel like you can go above and beyond with that pressure because it's like you get to feel the pressure. It's not like obligated. If you feel pressure, you're somebody. That's my opinion, because you're blessed to have that pressure, and rather you fail at it or you feel like you're failing at it, but in my opinion, I don't think you can truly fail at pressure. The only pressure you probably put on yourself is you. Nobody can put that obligation on you. I know like a lot of people in this world, they kind of make fun of women in sports, which I don't do that. Like, I don't appreciate that. Kind of tell me, do you ever feel like you had to be a certain way, or you had to put that pressure on you because you were a woman in sports? You didn't want to get looked at different from a male's sport, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like there's a certain pressure to be a certain way, like being a woman in sports, you kind of have to have like a good attitude. You can't be like crabby. I just kind of like the emotion side of things.
Yeah.
I feel like you're kind of expected to either have like none, or you're just kind of people determined that you have like a lot of emotion and they're just like acting out, like stuff like that. I think emotions wise, there's a certain, I suppose, possible bias or pressure to act a certain way.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I think that's why it was important to have you come on too. It's like I was been trying to get women to come on the podcast to kind of like speak out. Obviously, I had a bunch of football players or blah 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 or whatever, but it's to kind of hear a woman's perspective is like kind of helping me out so I can learn more, because I think everybody in society needs to learn more, because we're all equals no matter what in our journey, especially if we're children of God. Can we go back to like how's your family, like how much they motivated you and what effort and what they done for sacrifice for you to be in the position you are right now?
I would say countless hours, weekends, days, years of my life. My family has sacrificed like so I can be where I am. And I feel like I actually thought about this the other day. I was looking back and I was just kind of astonished, like, wow, like the amount of like time, distance, car rides that like my family would go just to, just to be there for me. Like my races, like if you're running indoor, especially was like my big event in track. It's like a 7-8 second race. Like you blink and it's done. So like they would drive to Michigan. Like they drove to Saginaw for conference one year, my senior year. And like they drove all the way for me to run like 2 races. But I was like, I don't know. It's just like a huge thing to have that support, I think. I think it's kind of overlooked when you're in the sport. You got so much going on in your head, like the pressure to compete well. Like you're like, I have an exam when I get home. It's finals week, conference week every year. So, you have like all this pressure, all these other thoughts going on in your head. So I think I learned to appreciate that support kind of like after the fact, like looking back on it. Like I think that was just like, it was a big part of my life, I think them encouraging me, supporting me to be able to kind of just follow. Like they honestly were like, if you want this, like you do it and like get it done.
I like that. I appreciate that, especially for your family. Kind of, you have your whole group and they're always supporting you to be where you're at. Like kind of when you're in your head and you feel like you're not doing the best, or you had a bad practice or a bad meet, like how do you get out of your head? Like what is your, like again, going back to the outlet, I'm kind of, you're going to see what I'm doing at the end, but it's like, how do you get out of your head? Like how do you give yourself reassurance and affirmation that you're all right?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely I feel like people kind of, it's a push and pull of struggle, like you have all that expectation to like compete well, and then when you don't, it's obviously, it kind of sucks. But I think kind of a way that I get out of my head, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't want to say it's just a race, but it's kind of just a race, I have so many other things going well in my life. I don't think that sports kind of engulfed me so fully and completely that, it was like the only thing I truly cared about,
Yeah.
You know, if like one thing I'm like, okay, this went really badly, but I still have this race coming up. Like I think I had just like a very positive outcome, like a positive mindset in all of it. I'm like, you know, this race went really bad, but like I still have this. And truly, you know, like I still have my whole team competing. I might not have scored, like if I don't score the points I want, like I didn't have the outcome that I wanted. Like I still have an entire team to like support and cheer for. So I think, you know, as frustrated as I get, obviously, it's not all about me, you know? Like, I am just as happy watching someone else PR. Like, I think that's because it's huge for them, you know? Like, that's not, like, a little thing to do. So I think, you know, getting out of my head to make sure I'm present for other people, I think is just, like, you know, I think it's more important.
Yeah, I like that. And especially with how you said somebody PR'd, you celebrate them. Like, I think that's the most important part, especially when you're kind of going down a path where it's like, I got to be able to look forward. And you be able to look forward, that's growth. You be able to accept that, okay, this feeling I'm having is temporary. And if you hold on to those things in your life, that's how you will say, okay, well, if I hold on to this, tomorrow might be a bad day or I might have a... And that's how a cycle is where it's like, I'm going to keep having bad times. And now it's everything's mental. And like, I think it's more as much like, running over hurdles, jumping over hurdles, and sprinting, how much that is important physically, but I think mentally that's where your game comes from. Because if you're not good here, you're physically not going to be good at all. But that's great that you kind of pointed out, especially I kind of want to get a deep dive in like how society is now, like with the division, and obviously there's a bunch of things I don't want to get into, but it's like, how can people come together, like accept one another? How can women support women? How can men support men? Or how can men support women? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, how can we come together, especially as athletes, to kind of support each other?
Yeah, I think it's a huge community, and I think it's coming a lot more together. I think divisions are almost like kind of, I guess the talent in divisions is kind of, you know, steadying out almost. I would say Division 1 obviously like is like the top division, but I think a lot of people coming out of like even Division 3, like if you look at all the track athletes like going to nationals, winning nationals, like there's a lot of like really good athletes in Division 3 that'll like go off to trials, stuff like that. I think building a community, I would say on the women's side of things, our schools and our GLIAC, our conference, work together. We would do an all women's track meet, and then we would do like a dinner the night before and like some sort of little activity, whether it's we all made like keychains, bracelets, just like some little activity to kind of help us mingle. Because I think when you hit the competitive stage, you're more of like, you're in your mindset, tunnel vision, like you finish, you might, you know, congratulate other people, but it's not like that, you know, that bond.
Yeah.
That kind of helps make it a community. So I think having little moments like that of like just community, no pressure of like competing against each other. Because the only other circumstance where you see each other is like on the line, and like I'm not really being like, hey girl, you know.
Yeah, no, you
like,
want to win.
Like I'm kind of like, we'll talk later.
Yeah, like that competitive nature, but also separating that where it's like after that we can, you know, hey girl, like, you know what I mean, like what you said before. But I think that's super important, and I'm glad that you brought that up too. I think athletes should be able to support each other, but when it's a fine line where it's like we're gonna get to that, but it's like I think that's super inspiring. I hope a lot of people can kind of get a lot out of that and be able to learn from each other. Like obviously we want to be able to win, but we want to be able to compete too. But without that competitiveness, it's like, can we really support each other? Like, can I really rely on my brother? Can I really rely on my sister in my sport? I think that's probably the most beneficial out of it, because at some day it's going to end for all of us, and when it ends, it's like, what are you going to do? It's like some people that you can really, one day that person that you competed with might be your boss. That person maybe be at your wedding, or as you said, like a godmother or a godfather. Like there's so many different things. It's crazy how also God works in mysterious ways. Sometimes God are able to put amazing people in your life. Sometimes God is probably put terrible people in your life, but it's also dependent on you and how you said your surroundings, who you surround yourself around with. But that's just God also telling you, it's like, this is the path that you should go on, this person that you should trust. And that's the beauty and the mix of it. And the reason why I brought up how society is now is I think we accept hate more than we accept love. And we're not able to get to know one another. Like we just had a whole meeting last night about acceptance. And how are we able to love our brother and our sister as equals? again, you can judge a book by its cover, but did you open that chapter to the book? That's why it's super important for me to be able to have you tell your story, because I want to be able to learn. I want to be able to get better and grow, and I hope a lot of people that also are followers of Unmasked Athletes, like, they're able to learn and accept it, and if they're not, then just don't follow. Simple as that. I don't know how else to put it. Kind of share about your future plans, like, what do you want to be, like, who do you want to be, or stuff like that.
I would say as of now, I'm kind of, building that foundation to be able to do the things I want to do. Like, I've been out of school since May, so I'm kind of just getting my bearings with everything with, like, my nursing career. I'm kind of using that as a foundation to essentially, do what I want. With nursing, it's a very flexible job.
Yeah.
I work 3 times a week, 12-hour shifts, so that leaves me with, a few open days to kind of, train for skeleton, stuff like that. I can really dive into my training. Leaves me time for travel if I need to go to Utah, or just travel for fun. There's a lot of things I want to experience in my life, and I think I kind of use my work not to consume me, but to build the life I want. So
I like that, and especially, like, obviously I'll pray for you, and I hope no matter where you go in life, I know you'll be successful, because if you made it this far, God has a plan down the road for you. So I'm really proud of you for especially kind of not talking about sports in that journey, because obviously it's especially you still have skeleton and your future, but it's like kind of I think that's a identity that I had a problem with. That's why I wanted to be able to create the podcast, to leave out my sport, because you've been doing it. I wish I had your mindset, like, of kind of accepting it. Me, I have a hard time accepting that one day my sport's going to be gone. And I had troubles to, who am I after my sport as well. So that's kind of good that you're hearing, especially the other guests kind of was struggling with that. I think you're the first guest to actually be level-headed with that, which that's super exciting to have, especially you on, to kind of get that different perspective. As we're kind of like winding down, tell me, what was your biggest life lesson that you learned? Like your biggest quote or whatever it may be.
That's a very, very good question. Biggest life lesson.
To make it easier, it could be like your mom, your pastor, your twin, something like that. Something like that.
I feel like there's a lot. There's a lot of life lessons that you go through. I think I've just been through so many, like, transitional stages, like entering college. I feel like there's big ones of, like, trying to figure out who you are, where you are in your religion. And I also think, like, exiting college, I kind of say, like, the bubble of sports that you kind of grow your life around.
Yeah.
Like, I would say just kind of figuring out who you are is a big life lesson, and it's something that's always continuous. So I think, like, my biggest life lesson, I'm still learning. There's a lot of, like, different, life experiences that I haven't experienced yet, that I have experienced, that I will experience again, just to kind of, like, build on who I am as a person. Again, I think a huge life lesson is who you surround yourself with. I think, making sure the people around you have the best intentions, are leading you towards God and not away from it.
I like that.
I think especially in a sport, track isn't necessarily a team sport, but you have your team. You have, like, 50 people that, you're trying to work with, kind of be friends with. And I think just making sure, there's competitiveness within a team, but making sure that's also, like, healthy, like we talked about before. Like, just kind of making sure, like, the competitiveness stays healthy, because I think it can turn pretty quick into being a little too competitive, because you see each other every day. You're going against each other head to head every day, getting pushed. But I think a big thing is just kind of, like, seeing what you are outside of that sport, like winning in practice isn't everything,
Sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is, but I mean, when you really get out there and, I think on the competitive stage, like, you show, like, what you've built up, like, what you've done. I think that kind of shows a lot.
Okay. That was a really good conversation. You can either look on the, I'm going to do this to everybody, I'm going to continue to do it. You can either look in the camera, look away, look around, look at your feet, whatever, kind of say shout outs, or, like, I really want you to be able to send 2 messages. Can you do me that favor? Ooh. Send 1 message to the little girls out there, that want to be in your position.
Okay.
I didn't name off your accolades because it's too big of a flex. I know that. You can go check
We
out
might be
Instagram.
here,
Yeah, I like that. But kind of send a message to the little girls that want to be inspired to be in your position. But also send a message back home. How much you appreciate your family, cousins, aunties, mom, dad, whoever, even your twins or whatever. But send that message back home.
I would say for young girls growing up in sports, never stop pushing yourself. You know, you have a whole life ahead of you of sport, of non-sport. So, yeah, never stop. Keep going. I would say to my family, my immediate family for sure, that supported me all through sports and especially even after. Thank you. I have a huge forever thank you to give out to them. They continue supporting me outside of sports throughout my life, so I feel like, yeah, I can forever be grateful for that.
I like that, and gratefulness is always key, especially to your family, because the biggest reason why I do that is to show your appreciation, because sometimes your loved ones don't always get that, and that's the most important thing, because we live off borrowed time. Tomorrow we can be here and not be here, and always telling people that you love them and you care for them is very important, and I'm trying to get better at that myself. But the amount of loss that I had in my life, I want to be able to make sure people don't forget that, and make sure people are grateful for the people they have. It may not be a lot of people. It can be a half of a person. It could be a cat, dog, or whatever it may be. Something that brings you joy, but also something on this worldly earth that we live in besides God that is always there for you. But I'm going to end on that. I appreciate you for coming on. I hope you had a good time.
I did.
But as we're going to continue to grow, I hope whatever you do in your future life, I know God has a plan for you. But to you guys out there, please check out this episode. It inspired me, gave me a better outlook. And, you know, as men, we got to be able to learn and be able to support women, not make fun of women, and also understand we're all different. And besides the gender roles, you got to be able to accept people for who they are, but it's also make sure you support one another with love, not hate, because sometimes you can start envying a person, and I think that's the most important thing that we can do as a society, especially what's going on in the world. Obviously, I don't talk politics on here always. Sometimes I could, but just keep loving one another, keep supporting each other. That's all I really got for this. So thank you guys, the Sunbass Athletes. Oh.